Don't leave. I need you here for moral. Look, we're live. I need you here for moral support. I'm afraid I can't just go on and talk on. Oh my God, they're watching. Hi, everybody. It's Sunday night. Ooh-wee. How is everybody tonight? Am I actually on? Yes, I am on. Okay. Scoop, what's happening? Does nothing special. Wayne Buzzle, Dean Stevenson, how you doing, brother? Mopar Man 78. Who else we got here? Lots of Dean Stevenson. Mark Sauvé, what's happening, brother? Got all of our regulars popping in here tonight. 72Z28. So what's new and oh, the dogs are going nuts in there. What's new and exciting, guys? I have nothing new and exciting. Let's see. Let's jump right into the comments or questions or whatever. Kevin Smith, you're mixing putty for his Oldsmobile model build. I be lurking. I lurk a lot. I lurk a lot of places. They don't know I'm there, but I'm there and I'm watching it. I'm listening to everything. And when I'm not there, Zero is there, right? He's lurking in the background. Zero, there he is. What's happening, brother? Let's see. Dr. Bob's nightmare. What's happening, Dr. Bob? Craig Chido, it's 4 degrees there. Screw that. It's about 40 here today. And then tomorrow it's supposed to be like 63. And then it's going to be like 69. So I won't be making videos because I will be out enjoying myself for a change. Walter Kroll, what's happening? Happy Sunday, brother. How are you? 72Z28. On the new Ram 1500s, you have to remove the sway bar to remove and install the front drive shaft. See, now, here's what happens, bro. You just stuck this piece of trivia in my head, and now it shoved something else out because my brain's been full for like decades, okay? So every little bit of new information that comes in, I lose something, you know, and you might have just put out something very valuable that I actually need. So, yeah, be careful with the trivia, okay? John 01, what's happening? Like nothing, man. Like nothing. It's just like it's a totally like nothing day. Nothing day. Jimmy Stapleton, what's up? You're in Churchill, Tennessee. Jimmy, I don't know where Churchill is. Where is Churchill? You know, it's funny. I was just watching a thing yesterday last night. It was like before you go to sleep, you just thumb through, and there was a barrage of Tennessee videos, like Tennessee facts and stuff like that. And they kept bringing. I'm lived here for 23 years, and they kept bringing up towns and areas that I've never lakes and shit I've never even heard of. Tennessee is a massive state. Nurse will try a head amputation. Yes, Dean Stevenson. Andrea Alvarez, what's happening? So Scoop is saying it's going to be 43 in Minnesota tomorrow. I'm just scrolling up here. Bob Caracappa, camshafts off, 67 Dodge 318. Is that just a general statement? I mean, close ashtray, 67 Buick Electra. I don't know. Brady Bebop. Tony got me hooked on stacking silver. I just started collecting American Eagles. Nice. What do you collect and what's your preference? I don't collect, I stack. And a little bit of everything. Just a little bit of everything. I really do like constitutional. 90%, a fair amount of that. But I don't discriminate. I don't discriminate. But actually, I'm done adding to the silver. I've switched over to copper. So That's my new thing, starting to stack copper, because that's going to be the next to go. By the way, for anybody following, you notice I did that video the day that silver went to 100 an ounce, or it was like 103 an ounce, whatever it was. And I said, I'm expecting a pullback to, I think we're going to have a pullback someplace to the mid 60s. And then, a little bit of a, consolidation, and then it runs like 180. Well, what did it do? It closed, before it closed on Friday, it dipped down to $65. And then it closed at like 73 or 74, whatever it is. So I'm on target so far. Mo Parquet, what is happening, sweetheart? Hello, everyone, Uncle Tony. You making me laugh, Uncle Tony. Excellent. Because every time I come in, you're like, oh no, what happened? I never know what happened. I mean, I walk around in a state of like, what? All the time. There's a lot of head trauma. You know what I mean? There's a lot of PTSD. You don't get to my age without a bunch of head trauma and PTSD. So, it's like what? You know what I mean? Just what? Wayne Buzzle is saying, smash the button. There he is. Smash the freaking button, damn it. Yes, the like button would be a great thing for you guys to hit on your way in, on your way out. Take a break right now, go hit the button, because it tells YouTube that you care and that we're doing something that you like or dislike. That's fine. A dislike is the same way too. It's engagement. YouTube doesn't care. You can hate my guts, right? But as long as you engage, that's all they care about, because that means you're sticking around to watch their commercials. So yeah, definitely. Comment, like, dislike, doesn't make any difference. But please, yeah, make some kind of commotion. Richard, it's like a Richard Holdner live, UTG or a doctor or a DT tweet. You create the target market. A Richard Holdner, does he still do stuff? Did they didn't take his crayons away yet? Stevenson is saying Mo Parquet doesn't seem to understand the UTG is telling the truth. Listen to me, it's a lot closer to the truth than most people would realize. Am I being hacked? Kevin Smith, are we being hacked? I look forward to that. I'm looking forward to the, that's how you know, see these days, that's how you know you made it on YouTube. There'll be like an AI version of you. You know what I mean? Like clone channels and stuff like that. I haven't gotten there yet, so I guess I'm still climbing the ladder. Dr. Bob's Nightmare. You're enjoying the Leaning Tower of Power content. I did a lot of it early on when we first started the channel, because at the time I was really on a Slant 6 bug. There was something about them. I was just, yes, Slant 6 is the answer, right? And I honestly, I discovered the 4-liter Jeep, which I didn't actually discover it. I've been aware of it my whole life, because before that was the AMC and Lens 6. And then it just took the place of it. It just, it was like, okay, Slant 6, yeah, okay, 4-liter, right? So I've been on a 4-liter kick for the last couple of years, but I still love slants. I'm just not doing anything with them. Let's see. Dennis Mengels. Tony, hey, I got a 71 Plymouth satellite with a 68 383 HP, and it's fun. Yes, it is. The 383 is my favorite engine out of all of the Mopar. So the 318 340, and I kind of keep in my mind, they're like interchangeable with each other. The 318 340 is right there, but the 383, if I had to pick one engine, just one engine, and it's the only one I could ever work with for the rest of my life, it would be the 383. B16 M1K3, what a name. Is that your actual name? Just blasted a deer at 70 in my 98 XJ. Is a mess from Virginia. Oof. Yeah, sorry, bro. But yeah, I mean, front end parts of those, like, they're pretty cheap. I'm just scrolling back up here. Kevin is saying someone keeps breaking through over your voice. I don't know. Are there any? You guys getting any weird like audio stuff? Any echoes or anything like that? Because I'm wearing a mic for a change because people are complaining about the sound, and so I actually put on an official mic. Is it working? Is the sound okay? Um, Jimmy Stapleton, the scientific facts he gave on the Mopar long crossram intake for 413, spot on. Thank you. Yes, I'm aware. I'm aware. I actually, well, I won't say his name. He's a really good guy, but I don't want to say anything because I don't know when he's going to do his video. But I have a friend who's he's not a Mopar guy at all, and actually he's not familiar with those with the long ramps. Um, but I talked to him on the phone today, and he's planning on doing a video, a follow up video on the last two that I did. Um, this guy's good. This guy's really good. So, and he says, I hope don't get mad if I contradict or anything. I was like, no, by all means. I'm anxious to hear your take on this. So there will be a video coming up, an extension on the ones that I did, and I'll let you guys know as soon as he's got his up. So I think it's a really good conversation because it's like it affects everybody. It's like it's something that everybody has control over as far as I'm talking about the intake system thermodynamics. It's something everybody has control over. It's an important tuning element to any package. It's the answer to a lot of combinations that just run like shit no matter what you do, and other ones that, oh my God, this thing just runs great. Why? And most of the time, it's going to have something to do in that area. And it's so misunderstood, or not even misunderstood, just not understood. Most people don't even know it exists. So I think it's a good topic. Jimmy Luce, thank you for the super chat. Tony, I learned so much from your latest video. I've been wrong about my cold engines have tons of power. I thought it was because of cold air. Well, cold air, but fuel too. You know what I mean? Like heavy, big droplets, and then the cold air that it takes to burn them. Um, Oscar Gonzalez, didn't some person claim they could hear a radio because of their metal tooth fillings? That was a phenomenon that actually happened. Some people were able to pick up this is years ago, and I don't know how it's changed or why it's changed. Well, maybe because there isn't as many radio signals bouncing through the air today as there were back then. Now we have different, things in the air. But yeah, there were people who would get like things like braces or tooth fillings, and they would pick up radio stations because it would vibrate the saliva in their mouth and salt and stuff like that would create a little electrical impulse, and it would turn the braces or the filling into a receiver for radio stations. Zero saying Lucille Ball had that happen. Okay. Yeah, no, it was kind of a common, like not common, but you would hear about it back in the day. You just haven't heard about it anytime recently. Um, let's see. Well, Parquet saying, it made me realize something about my father-in-law's dart. That video. Okay, it's cold-blooded, he says. I never understood until now. Well, he could also mean that it doesn't run right until it's warmed up, like really warmed up, which is a common thing with any high performance. You get a real high performance engine, and they run like hell. I mean, terrible until they're completely warmed up. And some people will say, yeah, well, it's cold-blooded. And then other people will, because the car is so strong when it's cold, they'll say that it's cold-blooded. So it could be, that phrase can be used either way. And I've used it both ways. So um, Zero saying Lucy fought the commies with her fillings. Really? I wasn't aware of that. Um, world of wood chip. I've watched this live for 6 years. Thank you. And YouTube doesn't show me a thumbnail. I have to go looking for it. Do you click notifications? Like where you subscribe to the channel? There's a little, where you hit the bell. I don't even know, to tell you the truth. I hear other people talk about, like, subscribe, share, and then smash the bell button. I'm not even really sure what it means. Detached I am from my own freaking life. But notifications, you hit something for the notifications. We'll do it. I think I rang the bell in 2020. Okay. Mo Parquet, hit the bell to all notifications. Yes, I know it's something. I just can't picture it. Let's see. I'm rolling back up here. Rankled engine, AM radio only needs a diode to detect. When I was a kid, crystal radios were the big thing. No electricity, no batteries or anything like that. And then you'd have a crystal and you'd be able to pick up radio signals with it. Connor Lake Havasu, well, milk and orange juice? No, just orange juice. Just orange juice. World of Woodchip, commie propaganda bullshit. You just described the entire media complex and most of the government. Oscar Gonzalez, thank you for the super chat. Can I damage the motor mount cause steering to act up? I guess it depends on the car and the setup. Like, okay, for example, so let's say you've got a Mopar with the old sandwich style mounts and headers. So yes, it could very conceivably be where the broken motor mount lifts up, the header comes in contact, because the header goes under the steering on those cars, and the header lifts up and it hits the tie rod end. So I mean, like, I guess, yeah, that could happen. But yeah. Well, the wood chip, you say he gets a notification of a buff live. This is how big camshaft keeps us down. Right? I know. And you guys, the cam father, man, that's, he was a hero, right? One of the originators of all of this stuff. We wouldn't have things like nitro if it wasn't for, him and his buddies screwing around back in the late 1940s. So yeah, 104 years old. Mike Batista, Tony is a 5 ohmier. I was for a year. I mean, I was, I was all about the 5-liter. I still like them. I have a very soft spot in my heart for them. I wouldn't really call me a 5-0 man. Like, here. Here's a question I can't answer. 5-0s, Redneck Avenue. UTG help. I'm ordering a 33 plus cam for my Summit, from Summit for my 5.0. It's supposed to be a billet steel cam, if I understand correctly. Kenny is a steel distributor gear. Don't want composite or brass. No, if it's billet steel, you need either composite or brass. You can't have steel on steel. That's the whole point of that. And it doesn't matter. It's not specific to Fords or anything. One thing you really need to be aware of, okay? When you're fitting a roller cam to a small block Ford, end play on that cam is more important than on most other engines, because of the weight of the the fragility of the oil pump drive. Okay, so you want to make sure that you've got exactly the right amount of end play on that cam, the front. Okay, if it's got too much, it'll walk back and forth, and it'll either shear the gear or it'll break the drive shaft. So keep that in mind. Scott, Uncle Tony, Marsha. Have you already discussed First Brands now killing off Autolite, Raybestos? I didn't know if they were killing them off. They're killing off Autolite, Raybestos, and Cardone after the bankruptcy. It's starting. This is the first I'm hearing of that. And if it's true that they're killing off Autolite, Raybestos, and Cardone, that's really huge. Okay, that would have. I mean, I knew about the bankruptcy for sure, but bankruptcy means a lot of different things. There's a lot of different ways to go bankrupt. It doesn't necessarily mean a ceasing of business or the end of a product line. But if you're telling me that now they're talking about killing off Autolite, Raybestos, and Cardone, that could be big trouble for us as hands-on guys. If that's the case, if that's the actual news that's going on, then take whatever extra money you may have and go stock up on parts that you're going to need, because that could be really, really bad. I'll look into that more. I'll dig into that a little bit more. I'll try to get some facts on that. Driver Misfits is saying, I don't think First Brands actually makes anything in the U.S. anymore to begin with. I didn't think so either. It's all from friggin' Pakistan and India and China. Vietnam builds a lot of parts. But the point is, if they're killing off those brands, those factories in those countries won't be making the parts that our market uses. It'll be making parts for the Asian markets or the Western Europe or Eastern European markets, and so you should be able to still get stuff, for your Lada. It doesn't mean you're going to be able to get stuff for your Buick. Let's see. The frog feeder. Tomorrow night, my buddy and I are attempting to put a Transgo shift kit in my 727 for my D200, just the improvement kit for solid shifts and to pump while in park. Okay, nothing races or crazy. Take your time. Take your time. I have screwed up more than one shift kit. It's like just buy the damn valve body and be done with it. Just take your time. Just take your time. Good luck with your job. Rankled engine will become like Cuba. Yes. I'll tell you what, bro. We're going there anyway. Regardless of what happens with First Brands or anything. It's the timeline, right? Like eventually, yes, we are absolutely going Cuba. There's no question about it. It's done. It's baked in the cake. It's mathematical. This is what's going to happen. But the timing of it, do we have a year before we go Cuba? Do we have like 8 years, 10 years before we go Cuba? I don't know. But the little chunks like that, product lines disappearing from the U.S. market, that's a sign of the cycle that's been going and it's accelerating. So I'll find out more about it tomorrow. Let's see. Dano, UTJ, I think you were wrong about the bronze bushing video. The cheap bushings are powdered metal, low load. Bushings from the bronze bar would be around 10 just for material plus 100 an hour for machining. I'm not even sure what you're talking about, Dano. I don't remember doing a bronze bushing video. I might have, but you're going to say here, this is like 2,000 videos. So I don't remember all of the videos that I've done. Um, those gears, the bronze gears, they go for like, I think the last one I bought was like $80. So yeah, they're not cheap, and they are disposable. I mean, like, you expect to have to, you expect to have to change them out after a while. Um, M Parent bought a Mellings timing kit. Nice, made in the USA box. All the individual parts inside were white box Chinese. The box was made in the USA with pride, you know. Oh, the Sportster bushing. I'm sorry. Bro, I'm so sorry, because we were talking about roller cams, and automatically I thought we were talking about that. Okay, let me go back and read the question again. I'm so sorry. Listen, this is what I mean about the brain trauma and PTSD. Um, let me scroll back up and see what you said. Here we go. Okay. I think you were wrong about the bronze bushing video. The cheap bushings are powdered metal. Oh, okay. Bushings from the bronze bar would be about 10 just for material plus 100 an hour for machining. Okay, I do not know enough about materials. Okay, I'm not a metallurgist, but here's what I got to go by. Okay, Dano, go to their video, and there are probably 50 to 100 comments by people who do machining, or that deal with this stuff, that know exactly, that either build Harley engines or they machine parts like that. There's dozens and dozens of comments in there, all saying, yes, I could make them for this. This is the composition of those, and I could make it for this much, right? This is what it would cost if I had to do it. Or I had those made by a machine shop and they cost me X amount. Tons and tons of videos on that, or comments on that video. So I'm going to go with that. So I'm going to go with the consensus. When I do a video, if there's a consensus in the comments, I tend to just go with that, and it's either a confirmation of what I suspected, or a reason to make me go back, rethink the topic, and go make another video on it. So yes, I'm going to say I might be wrong, but the majority of commenters, they're not all going to be wrong. Frog feeder. Come on, guys. Less than 50% thumbs up. We can do better. Yes, do better for Tony. Tony needs those interactions. And yes, Dean Stevens was saying this was not bronze advice. Cuba had an excuse. They are geographically isolated and still have limited natural resources. The amount of iron, copper, oil, silver we have in the ground, and we still go in Cuba, just said, well, here's the thing. We gave away all of our manufacturing. Not only did we give away our manufacturing, but we let all of our cities and towns and infrastructure that supported that manufacturing go, okay? So now everything is processed someplace else and brought here. So just for that reason alone, our money is becoming worth less and less every day, right? It's called inflation, right? And there's a lot of hidden inflation. There's all sorts of things happening as far as the bond markets. Listen, the bottom line is that no matter what happens, in order for us to not become Cuba, at least for a period of time, a decade, I don't know how long it'll take, all of that manufacturing infrastructure has to be rebuilt. All of the towns that have been gutted have to be re-inhabited. All of the railroads, all of the roadways, all of the trucking companies, all of the infrastructure that was American manufacturing, all has to be rebuilt before we can become self-sufficient again. That will take a long freaking time. So we're going Cuba, bro. We're going Cuba. The stuff we've got in the ground isn't going to do us any good unless we can turn it into things we need. I hate to be a downer, but this is what it is. Josh Holman, it's good to be here, and it's good to have you here. Connor, Are you buying copper yet? Yes, I've been buying copper for the last month, last 2 months. I've been buying copper. Yes. Scoop, thank you for the super chat. No question, statement, comment. Thank you. Let's see. Tony, what's your opinion of the universal slip fit on wheel spacers, good or bad? It depends on the spacer. It depends on the use. Um, if you've got adequately sized studs and you're not, diameter, right, and length, and you're not going more than, let's say, a half inch, you know, you need just that tiny bit of clearance, they're probably okay. I wouldn't lean on them. I wouldn't, or anything more than that. You know what I mean? Like a 1 inch spacer, I think you're really starting to push it. Um, I've used them when necessary. I've seen them used. Um, so I don't really have a negative opinion of them. I just don't abuse it. You know what I mean? Don't go too far with it. Coop Whitey, Coop Whitney. Hey, Tony, you need to get you a vintage two-stroke bike project. Please. Okay. I love two strokes. When I was a kid, I was very into the Kawasaki triples. I had a couple of Yamahas. I can explain it to you. Like, I'm trying to simplify. Part of me really, really wants another triple. But I'm trying to keep my fleet kind of uniform, if that makes any sense. I've gotten rid of a lot of bikes over the last year or so because I'm trying to just narrow it down to one type of bike that I can keep a lot of parts in stock for. It gives me a lot of options, whatever I feel like doing to it. So, but yeah, I have a love for two-stroke street bikes. Sweaty fat guy, what's happening? Just got in from the shop. See, and now the Water Buffalo is the one bike that disappointed me. That was the one bike that disappointed me. We didn't have a lot of like in my area. I grew up on Staten Island, right? And we didn't have a lot of Water Buffaloes around. We didn't have any of the Suzuki triples, right? They're very rare. So Suzuki did the GT 550 and the GT 350, 550, and the 750. And the 750 was a Water Buffalo, right? It was a water cooled two-stroke triple. So Kawasaki triples roll over the place. So I got my fill of those. And then, but I always wanted a Water Buffalo. I was like, yes, I need a Water Buffalo because that's got to be a thing, right? So I finally found a complete running Water Buffalo. This was around 1999 or so. And I was all excited. I had to travel to go pick it up, got it back, got it running. And I was and it sounded so different than the cows because it was like more solid because it's water. Okay. And I remember the first time I got on there and just, let it rip, right? And I was just totally disappointed. I was like, there's something wrong with this thing. I've done something terribly wrong with this because this just sucked. And I played with that bike and I played with that bike and I played with that bike and then started to talk to other people who had messed around with those things. And they were like, yeah, it's not tuned for performance. It's tuned as a road tripper. You know, it's tuned as a touring bike. So it was like, yeah, okay. So I'm going to say the Water Buffalo was probably the most disappointing motorcycle experience of my life. Um, I'm just going to scroll back up here. Frederick Booth, off topic, but what kind of plant on shelf behind you? I don't know. It's Kathy Bananas. She does all of this stuff. I wouldn't. I know tree. Okay, you know what I mean? Okay, I know tree. I know like plant. You know, the tree is big, the plant is small. That's it. As far as I know, that's my that's my whole world of agriculture right there in a nutshell. Um, Jimmy Luce, thank you for another super chat. On your Wednesday live, you mentioned you're going to make a video related to the video 318 will run will posted. Are you still going to make that video? Yes, I'm making it tomorrow. Honestly, I needed to get that video I did yesterday. I needed to get it out of my head, and it was very hard to get that video done because it's a tough topic. It goes off into so many different directions, and if you're trying to make it simple and concise, it's nearly impossible. I did that video at least 10 times, and that's not usual for me. Usually, I sit down, I hit the button, poof, and it's done. Okay. And sometimes you get really hung up on a video because you're trying to fit too many different details and trying to like put too many different ideas together in one package, and it starts getting really crazy. So I had I had one version of it. Okay, that was like, okay, I got all the information in, right, but I looked burned out and miserable, and I was like dragging my ass through the video. I was like, I can't, no, and delete. And that was like a half-hour long video. I was like, delete, and I sat down and spit out the version that I put out yesterday. So, guys, this is not an easy gig. I gotta tell you, there's a lot of mental work to this stuff. JRG, please, Tony, tell me your short take on car rotisseries, E-Body Challenger. I personally have never had a rotisserie. If you're doing like a full-on restoration, then yes, a rotisserie is almost a must. To do a complete restoration where you're going to take a car like the Challenger and break it down in a unibody, prep everything, paint everything, you're doing that type of work. The difference between doing it on the ground and doing it on a rotisserie is like probably 3/4 of the time-wise. If something's going to take you an hour on the ground, it's going to take you 15 minutes on a rotisserie because you can cover so much ground with it. So if you're doing that kind of work, then yes, I think it pays to buy a rotisserie. I myself don't do that kind of work. Other people do, but my interest is more towards just take this thing out and beat it up, right? Make it look halfway presentable and then just send it. But other people are very much into that whole restoration thing where you're going to bring this thing back to new. And for that, you need a rotisserie. I'm scrolling back up here. Yeah, Jimmy Lewis, will you ever post a blooper reel? I want to. So Kathy, she does the editing. Okay, so I shoot a video and I come back here and I hand her this, and it was the GoPro case, and I say, "Here, I made you a video," and then I go away, right? And she loads it up and does all of that, and then she'll start editing it, right? And what a lot of times what you guys don't see is that like when I'm making a video, I'll stutter, I lose my place. I mispronounce words. Words go together. You remember when Biden was making those speeches and he was just like he would make up these crazy words. I do that. I actually did that in the last video, and Kathy cleans it up. So, and I always tell her, I says, put all of this stuff together because I think we need to do I want to do a blooper reel, and it's just going to be like like 15 minutes of me like stuttering, stammering, making up words and shit like that. I think it would be hysterical, and she won't do it. So yeah, talk to her because I'm totally for it. I'm totally for it. And Fubar, I didn't see you sneak in, my brother. But Fubar is here, and he's dropping a link to our merch, a place where you can buy our hats, our shirts. I don't even know what shirt I'm wearing today. Whatever shirt I'm wearing today, yes, that is now available in the store for your wearing pleasure. Be styling in UTG gear. Um, let's see. GPS specialist. Built in a 66 383 for a Coronet, 915 heads and exhaust manifolds, one 383 horsepower saw. Best cam recommendations. Roller probably as flat tappets. If you can afford a roller setup, because roller setups are not cheap, go roller. And what you're looking for, see, the exhaust manifolds are the limiting factor with that. Not that exhaust manifolds are bad. It's just that you got to be really careful with your cam choices because there's no scavenging with exhaust manifolds. It's that simple. I would say, honestly, just look at the street hemi grind cam. Just look at the street hemi grind cam, and get it in the roller version. And the thing is, with the roller, you can get yourself a little more aggressive ramp with it. So even though the specs are they're mild, seemingly mild, you can get a more aggressive ramp on it, and with the roller, and look at the street hemi grind cam. Um, I'm just scrolling up here. Frog Feeder, you've got your UTG John Dodge shirt quote shirt on today. We sold a lot of those, bro. We sold a lot of those. Mo Tai is you're actually wearing that shirt right now, not on purpose. The shirt that I'm wearing, I don't know what shirt it is. It's usually I've been for like the last couple of months. I've been wearing the internal combustion shirts because we way over ordered them. So I've got boxes of packages of those shirts all over the place. So when I need a shirt, it's easier to just grab one off the merch pile than it is to go to like the laundry room and go find a shirt. So I've been wearing those internal combustion shirts. People who don't know that I do YouTube, you know what I mean? Like they see me wearing the same shirt every day, so it's like they must think that I'm like homeless or something like that. That guy hasn't changed his shirt in months, but it doesn't look dirty. So, but I don't know, what shirt am I wearing right now? Um, the way the gearhead monk. Oh, so the gearhead monk shirt. I like those. I like those. Ah, it's Kathy Bananas from the other room. She, she's right on the other side of that wall watching this on the TV. Crushing disappointment. Okay, yes, I'm wearing the crushing disappointment shirt. Uh, Vantage Adventure Doors. To be fair, UTG looks like he's homeless. It is what it is, right? Uh, Scott is saying crushing disappointment isn't in the store. Kathy, it's not in the store? Oh, zero. Okay, you always just promoting your shirt. Yes. Way of the Gearhead Monk. That is Zero's shirt. Dead Cougar Garage. I love that Tony rolls his own. I started rolling my own when I was 10 and 10, 11 years old. And then I smoked Lucky Strikes for, I don't know, like 10, 15 years. Well, no, first I smoked Camels because I could steal those easily from members of my family. But then as I matured a little bit, I switched over to Lucky Strikes. I smoked Lucky Strikes until, I don't know, I guess around 1990. And then 1995, like that. And then I switched over to rolling my own. So I've been rolling my own cigarettes for 30 something years now. Um, Ego death please. Is anyone else tired all the time? You think they're spraying us with sedatives? Bro, no lie, okay? Like seriously, no lie. Do you eat a lot of bread? Because if you eat a lot of bread, there's something in the freaking bread, okay? Cut back on bread for a little while and see if your energy level doesn't spike up. Because bread is not what it used to be. The wheat is not what it used to be. And I'm off of it for the most part. I had pizza for the first time in like a year yesterday. I didn't feel so hot afterwards. Like I felt a little sluggish. I really laid off of bread, and my energy level is pretty good. It's not bad, especially like this time of the year. Generally speaking, in winter, I'm like half depressed, so it's like I got to be out. I got to be on a motorcycle. I got to be doing something, right? So the winter really sucks for me, but my energy level is high. So I attribute that to the diet and cutting out bread. Most bread, I think, is the difference. Coda Improvements is saying unbromated flour is what you need. Well, I'll tell you what. We bought some flour from Italy, and Kathy has made bread with that, and it's a complete. I don't know if bromated, I have no idea what that means, but I do know that the Italian flour it makes a completely different texture. It's like fluffy. It's like a happy, fluffy thing. It tastes like it tastes wholesome. Is the only word I can think, to fit it. It tastes like wholesome. But the downside of it, and you eat it and you feel great afterwards. It's like there's no like regret. Oh God, I shouldn't have eaten all that, right? The downside of it is like you make bread, let's say 9 o'clock at night. By 9 o'clock in the morning, it's like almost like a rock. And then like by 9 o'clock the next night, you could break a windshield with it. So I don't know what bromated or unbromated would mean, but I do know that there's a massive difference between the Italian flour and the flour that we get here. Uh, Ayatollah Ali, you're on a nicotine gum. Yeah, I listen. I like the smoking. If I was feeling any real like, I got a cough. Excuse me, I got a cough every once in a while. If I was feeling any real side effects from it, I would at least cut way back. But I can't see myself ever quitting because I really enjoy it. Um, it's important to me. It's the only way I can explain it to you. It's important to me. Uh, let's see. Hyacinth, why not pipes? I tried it. Kathy bought me a pipe like a year ago or so, 2 years ago, and I tried it, and it just doesn't. It's not the same. You got to keep lighting it. There's this whole procedure that's involved with it. It takes me like 30 seconds to roll a cigarette, if that, and then that's it. The pipe was just too much work. You have to think about the pipe too much. World of Woodchip. I race motorcycles, but a terrified white bird will kill me. Yes. Try to explain that to a normie. You know what I mean? Try to explain that to a normie. But yeah, it's true. I know exactly what you're talking about. Um, fancy drugs. Yeah, smoking a pipe is too classy for Tony. Yes, exactly. Um, let's see. I'm just scrolling up here. Can racing motorcycles and white bread be the next T-shirt? I guess it could, Scott. I don't know how many people are going to buy it. That's going to go over a lot of people's. Uh, All more to Chris. I try to get my wife to quit smoking, but she says we all have to die someday. Well, I mean, that's not really a good attitude. You got to listen. You got to know your own body. Okay, you got to know your own body, and you have to be healthy. You know, like going in. If you don't have a really good, core, yeah, smoking will kill you. But then so will everything else. I come from an era now, right? So now smoking is like, how many people smoke anymore? Okay, but when I was a kid, okay, growing up in the '60s and the '70s, okay, everybody smoked, and old people smoked, right? Like 80-year-old people, they smoked. That was just the thing that they did. Nobody thought anything of it. It was like, yeah, smoke. It wasn't until like the '70s and the '80s that it started to have a negative connotation and like people, oh, cancer, cancer, cancer. But I mean, honestly, the reality is that if you go back to the '50s or '60s or '70s, people smoked until they were 80 years old. Um, nobody thought anything of it. There was no correlation. Oh, if you smoke, you're going to die young. It wasn't there. It's only after they started adding all of these freaking chemicals. Here's the thing, right? When you roll your own, okay, so you use a pure tobacco, um, and that's what you smoke. When you like occasionally, like I'll have my hands full and there'll be somebody around me with a regular cigarette, or I'm on the run someplace and I forgot to grab tobacco, so I'll jump into a gas station and buy a pack of Pall Malls or something. You smoke a regular cigarette, like a commercially available filtered cigarette. It tastes disgusting. You can taste the chemicals in it. You know that this thing is going to damage you. Okay, and then you go back and you roll one of these things, and it's like, oh, yes, that's fresh. It's like it's a wholesome smoke. Uh, Tanner Watson, you have any creative ways to make an old car theft proof? Bro, I don't even take the keys out of my cars. I don't lock the doors. I don't take the keys out of my cars. I just don't. I don't care. Nobody's stolen one yet. I don't think anybody's going to steal one. I'll deal with it if they do. I don't worry about it. Um, Vintage Adventure Drives in the paper on a commercial cigarette has black powder rings to keep it lit. Yes, but then they also have that carpet glue, whatever it is they added to it, so that if you don't hit it frequently, it goes out. Fire safe cigarettes, they call them. Oh shit! Now that's another thing too, right? So like these cigarettes, if you don't hit them every couple of minutes or so, they'll go out on their own. And so like I'll roll a cigarette. I'll do it like if I'm relaxing and watching a TV or whatever. I'll roll a cigarette. I'll take 2 or 3 hits off it. I'll put it in the ashtray, and it'll go out. And then I want so it's like one cigarette will last me in like an hour. Uh, Uncle Gus. They add calcium carbonate, the same thing in sidewalk chalk, and turns to make the ash appear white to give the imitation of a cleaner burn. Interesting. So I never really looked into, the composition of them. I just know that when you smoke a packaged commercial cigarette, it's like, yeah, it's like, yes, this is terrible. There's something wrong with this. Um, Ford CD Burlock, how far does EFI go back 70 something? How far does EFI go back 70 something? You mean 70 something years? Because that would probably be about accurate. They were developing it during World War II. Um, Chrysler put Chrysler put a dual throttle body port injected setup on the 392 Chrysler in 1957, I think it was. Chrysler and DeSoto offered it, and they built a few of them, but they had problems. I did a whole video on it actually. The electrojector, the Bendix electrojector. Did a whole video on it, but I don't remember the details now exactly. I think it was a capacitor problem that the capacitors just weren't up to the task, so they pulled them out of service. But it didn't really get to see regular production until the early 70s. There were models here and there, you know what I mean, but it didn't actually come into common use until the 70s. Let's see. Um, That's right. All Motor Chris, you got it. 75 Cosworth Vega was GM's first EFI and dual overhead cam. I loved those cars. They were cool. That was actually there was the prototype for the CCC system that they adopted in 1981. So yeah, there was like a 5-year gap between the Cosworth Vega and that thing seeing like regular normal production. Um, but yeah, those Cosworth Vegas were slick, man. They were cool. Um, Ego Death, please. I wonder if anyone ever put port injectors on that long ram setup for 413. If they did, you would have just a modern engine. You know what I mean? There's really no difference. Okay, so those long rams, they're all the way out there. It's no different than like the curved runner uh, port injected manifolds. Where they got all kinds of length involved in them, but they're not laid out like those long rims were. They're curled over each other and stuff. Because if you're not sending fuel through it, the air doesn't care if it's got to make a few turns here and there. It's only when you add the fuel to it that those turns become a problem. So if you were to port inject a long ram Chrysler, you would have a very well running an engine that had similar characteristics to a high torque or like a truck version of a modern engine. Scoop is saying the 77 Celica looked like a tiny 69 Mustang Fastback. They were slick looking cars. I liked those cars. When in the 70s, when the Japanese cars started coming in, I didn't like them because they were coming from Japan. And that itself didn't bother me. Okay. So I was a teenager during this period of time, right? And the fact that cars were made in Japan didn't bother me. I could care less where they were made. And I'm still like that. I still don't care really where they're made. What bothered me back then was the news. Okay. So on the news, every single day, every week, every day, constantly, there were layoffs, right? Because the auto industry at that point was just ginormous. Okay. And every day, constantly in the news, were announcements of plant closings and cutbacks and layoffs and firings and blah, blah, blah from the automotive industry. And so that was the only axe I had to grind with the Japanese cars. as cars themselves, like if we were building them here, let's say, I loved those things, especially like the first generation Honda Civics. They were awesome. They were awesome cars. They bring those over in 1975. Toyotas of the era were magic to work on. Everything was either a 10, a 12, or a 15 millimeter. That was it. Okay, you only needed 3 wrenches to work on this entire vehicle. That they were beautiful, simple, easy to work on cars, and they hit all of my, they hit all of my, I like this. They hit all of the right buttons. So my only gripe with them was that while they were coming in, the automotive industry in our country was being decimated. So that was my gripe against them. And to this day, that's still my gripe against foreign cars or even just international cars sold under, American, nameplates. Um, Sid Ryder, back in those days, Japanese cars were not seen as being quality products. You're wrong. In the 70s, American cars had a reputation for being very troublesome, not running right. Because in the 70s, you had all of the engine designs from the 1950s and 1960s still in production. So now the 70s roll along, and now they've got to meet emission requirements, they got to meet fuel economy requirements. There's all sorts of things that they tacked onto these engines. So because of that, American cars were known to be sluggish, bad fuel mileage, troublesome, they're finicky, they don't start, they're difficult to diagnose when stuff goes wrong. This was the reputation American cars had by the middle 70s. The Japanese cars, when they were coming over at that point, the Nissan was still Datsun at that point, Toyota, Honda. These things were known as icons of reliability and simplicity. That's how they got the edge. If you were conspiracy minded, you might say that elements within the government kneecapped our cars through technology, or not through technology, but by placing unrealistic demands on them, and opened the door for these Japanese cars that were originally designed for their domestic market. And so they fit right in here under the new reality. You know what I mean? The new realities. So those, I remember those cars. I remember them really well. I remember them very fondly. You can't say anything bad about the 70s Japanese imports to me. I'm scrolling up here. Eric, U.S. auto quality control dropped in the 70s due to drugs. I don't know if it was due to drugs. I think it was more workers were demoralized at that point. By the 1970s, everybody in the automotive assembly loop, right, saw that, like, our days are numbered. You know what I mean? They just closed that plant. They just closed that plant. They just laid off 1,000 workers here, 3,000 workers there. This train doesn't come through here anymore. Our days are numbered. And I think at that point, like, that's when U.S. quality control really started to take a dump, because at that point, the people who were operating the machinery that were keeping the wheels running were demoralized. They were like, it's just a matter of time before we're unemployed. So I think that's the big problem with American car quality control in that era. All Motor Chris, saying they sold only 3,508 Cosworth Vegas. They scrapped over 5,000 engines at Louis. I never knew that. I own CV number 278 and have 2 engines. Wow, that is very cool. That's actually very cool. I'm telling you, I really like those cars. I remember the first time I saw one. I was like, slick, with the gold pinstriping and the gold wheels and all of that. They were beautiful. They were really beautiful. Um, that's impressive. Ford CT Burlick are saying the engineers didn't have it all together and cost of a car was 1/10 today. Well, the engineers were part of that same demoralization loop, bro. Up to that point, you go back, you go look at the American auto industry of the 60s and the 70s. The people who worked the industry, from the designers to the engineers to the people on the assembly line to the people who made the tooling to the people who did casting, all of that whole loop. Everybody, there was great pride in being part of the American auto industry. It was the biggest industry in the world. It was the most powerful industry in the world. And when you got in there, as long as you did your job, you had job security. So people were like, yes, let's make good products. Let's apply ourselves to this. And that little bit, it adds up all the way. It's the difference between the person who's doing the I've actually come across this. It's the difference between the people who are doing the sand castings for the cylinder heads, carefully placing the two halves of the mold together, and ones that go boom and move on and grab the next one. You know what I'm saying? Because the ones that carefully go together, they come out beautiful. You look at those heads today, and there's no seams inside, there's no shift, there's no nothing. And then you look at some of them from that period of time when the writing was on the wall. And like, I did a video on this actually, comparing castings, and you can see it's like there's big seams and glops of stuff, and it's just like nobody cared. You can see that nobody cared at that point because they knew it's just a matter of time. All my friends got laid off. They closed this plant, they closed that plant. We're next. I don't care. Boom, here. And it was Nixon. It was Nixon. It was Nixon. So the thing about that, right, is that, yeah, okay, so he's going to close the gold window to international redemption. August 15th, 1971 was the beginning of the end. All right, if you have economic problems in your life, you can trace it back to August 15th, 1971. All right. So, but at the same time, at that same period of time, he normalized relations with China. Now, the thing is, China didn't have the manufacturing infrastructure at the time to flood the market like they have in recent times. But Japan did, because Japan was a manufacturing powerhouse. So basically, the government opened the door, right, or set up the long-term deal for China. And you can see this now, hindsight, looking back 2020, hindsight's 2020. The government set up a long-term deal with China to get China into the position where it is right now. But as a surrogate, and to start taking the American manufacturing apart, flood us with imports, they used Japan for that. Plus, Japan, and really to this day, is still a satellite of the United States. We run their banking system. It's a symbiotic relationship, right? So, yeah, I think the setup that we're in right now is, you could go all the way back to 1970 and 1971 when Nixon normalized relations with China. Oh, we're just gonna make it normal. That's good. And then you had all of the other steps along the way, NAFTA and all that. But the damage was done by that point. So I think that's what happened. The long-term plan was to have China take over the world. Okay, somebody stalled out, right? So the long-term plan was to have China take over the world, but China wasn't ready to do that. Japan was. So, poof, in comes Japan. And if you notice, we used up and spit out Japan, right, from an economic standpoint, because the middle 1980s, Japan went into a recession. It still hasn't recovered from, and that's when China really started to pick up. So I don't know. I'm rambling on. Frederick Booth Nixon. I am not a crook. They're all crooks now. Crooks? Is that it? That's the best you could do? If they were all crooks now, I would think that they were good guys. If all they were crooks, I'd be like, yeah, go get it. Okay. Yeah, no. If they were only just crooks. Uh, let's get back to cars here. Mustang GoPro. I had a 1990 Mustang LX, took the mass air off unit off a junkyard 96 Mustang, V6 Mustang, 70 millimeter throttle body. Thought I was hot stuff. After all my junkyard modifications, got my AOD to do 13.1 in the quarter mile. That's respectable for a backyard cobbled AOD. Yes, that's running hard, bro. See, you did your experimenting. You did your experimenting. You read the 10-minute tune-up that Neil and I did back in 1987, and you added on based on that, tinkering, working with the stock parts, and you got good results. Gee, Dakota, you think? See, I'm not gonna say that. I can't say that. You think? Where was everybody 10 years ago when we were trying to tell you that? Let's see. Bear Rose is in the house. What's happening, Bear Rose? I'm just scrolling back up here. They're evil, lying sociopaths. I would say that if all they were evil sociopaths, I'd say, okay, that's not bad. It's so much worse than that. Let's see. Oscar Gonzalez, didn't the USA help rebuild Japan after World War II? Well, you see, that's where the American boom of the 50s came from, because we rebuilt. See, again, see, it was a friggin' scam, right? Because you had the Bretton Woods Accord right after World War II, so now everybody's got to trade everything in U.S. dollars, right? The U.S. dollar became the one world currency, okay? So at that point, yes, now that you all have to use our money, let's rebuild your countries using our money that we'll lend to you and you could pay us back. And yes, so rebuilt Japan, rebuilt all Europe. I mean, rebuilt everything, using our money that they paid us back with interest. So we blowed them up. Now here, use our money and now pay us back with interest. So yes, and that's where the American industrial, like powerhouse came from, because all of the stuff that was being rebuilt over there all came from our factories here. Remember, we destroyed all of their factories, all of their means of production, all of their means of transport. So now, when they needed railroad tracks over there, well, it was Bethlehem Steel that made the rails, and then they got on a ship and went to wherever they had to go. So, yeah. Let's see. Ruby Ridge members. Rick, how are you doing, Rick? UTG, I have a 69 slant 6 with a very loud tick, only to hear at the tailpipe at idle. Can't figure it out. Engine is quiet, runs great, no exhaust leaks. Quiet lifters help. You have a very loud tick, only to hear at the tailpipe at idle. You've probably got an exhaust valve that's just starting to leak, which is a common thing on those. And it's going to be a number 6 cylinder. Okay, do a compression test on that thing, and look at number 6. I bet you number 6 is going to be down to like 60 pounds. Okay, and if you pull the head apart, you're going to find that there's just a little tiny nick out of the corner of the valve. That will give you a loud tick through the tailpipe when it first starts to go. Territory, Tony, update on the dragster clutch. I heard you say some kind of clutch foam. Miata was, we're going to use a Miata clutch on it, definitely. So the last I heard from Jeff was that he purchased a clutch. He's got it's a used clutch, but it's complete. Um, it's of the size that we need. So uh, I haven't received it yet. I haven't heard from Jeff in like a week or so. But I mean, it's going to take time. He's going to buy it, and I got to package it up, and I got to ship it, and all that. So I expect it to take a week or two before it gets in our hands. But that should be coming up soon. We should have the clutch in our hands soon. Um, got Dr. Art's got the brake parts for it, so that's all good to go. And I really need the cylinder heads, and I really need to actually get back into that whole thing because now that we haven't touched this car in months, so everything's become disorganized, everything's become dirty. So I've got to actually spend a day getting reset up, getting re-geared up. But I'm not going to do that until I actually have parts in my hands, that we can move forward with it. So, but that's the update on the dragster. Let's see. I'm just going to scroll back up. Exhaust valve. Yes, exhaust valve. Um, they named the car after a city. And they named the city after a car. In Japan, yeah. Oh, that rings a bell. That rings a bell. City named after a car. Oh, zero. Yeah, there you go. Zero. After the bombs, only Mazda City basically survived. Uh, Scrolling up. Torino Elite. Does anyone else miss going into smoke-filled bars? There's just something about it. Sorry to any non-smokers. I used to have smoke-filled coffee houses. So there were nights we would jam people in there for like open mic nights and stuff like that, and we would have a space that would normally sit like 20 people, and you have like 75 jammed in there, all shoulder to shoulder, and all of them smoking simultaneously, and it would be like a bog through the middle, and that was just normal. It was just a normal like Thursday night open mic night. Yeah. Let's see. The holes. Uncle Tony, random question. Have you ever messed with sodium-filled valves for streetcars? I have not. Back in the 80s, it was sort of talk of the town. Don't hear about it much anymore. Yeah, I never got that sophisticated with valves. Harry Lister, Tony ran a beatnik hangout that sold coffee. No, it was a traditional coffee house. So the difference between a coffee shop is a place you go in the morning and you get your coffee and a bagel and that sort of thing. A coffee house is a bar for people who don't drink. It's a social environment. So, and it's coffee and coffee related stuff that you serve instead of beer, alcohol, and everything else. So it has a different head, like it has a different atmosphere. Um, it's more for people who really want to have conversations and play chess. They read poetry and stuff like that. They argue, they debate, they fight. It's a very dynamic environment, unlike a bar. You know what I mean? A bar stays relatively low key, because like, you're only the blink of an eye from an angry drunk, flipping out. But in a coffee house, it's the opposite. The caffeine takes over and people get crazy, and it's cool, because everybody's going to kind of keep their head together. Ultimately, alcohol is a depressant. So if you have a bar, an environment, where the main source of stimulant is a depressant, you end up with a depressing environment. a coffee house, the main, stimulant is caffeine, which is, the opposite of a depressant. So it's a really, really cool environment. Uh, Tanner, so like a Starbucks, but with rock and roll and a set of balls. Uh, it's hard to relate it to like a Starbucks. Um, yeah, I mean, if Starbucks was set up more like a bar, where instead of having a counter that you waited at and then you go to sit, if Starbucks actually had seats around where they're making the coffee and stuff like that, and people were hanging out there, um, and there was like constant activity, constant people talking and doing things and shit like that, then yes. Um, Rick, that's right, Tony. The sixth exhaust valve indeed leaks down to zero compression. Am I a psychic or what? Okay. Um, all of this cylinders have good compression. Weird thing is that sixth valve leaked long before the ticking sound. Well, I mean, now it's, I guess it's leaking enough that you're getting compression, or you're getting combustion. I don't know exactly, but it's going to be there, man. It's going to be there. Um, let's see. Paul Cabazolo, I always enjoyed hanging out at the drag strip rather than a bar or coffee joint. But it's hard to get into the drag strip every night. You know what I mean? It's like, uh, I'm scrolling back up here. DTSB9SB. I bought a 51 Ford with a swapped 302. The electrical giving me headaches. Yeah, no shit, right? Duh. Uh, I just want to rip out all the wiring and start over. Um, yeah, that's probably your best bet. I'm not big on the kits. Like, I like working with factory wiring whenever possible. Okay. So I'm not really crazy about the universal kits, but they do have a place. They do have a good purpose. Um, and what you have right there is the purpose. Like, if there's ever any reason to use one of them universal wire kits, you're working on it. So yes, that's what I would do. Because everything in there is going to be 6 volt. Everything's going to be 6 volt. Every switch, everything. It do do a wiring kit. And then Fubar, once again, the amazing Fubar put up, and that's actually not Fubar. Fubar is not a bloody shark. Just so we know, because he comes in a human form. He's our merch again, our hats and our shirts and stickers and like other stuff like that in the store for your buying pleasure. And thank you, UncleTony'sGarage.com. Support the effort. I had my worst month in 6 years in January. The worst month in 6 years. Oof, it was bad. So yeah, feel free to buy merch, guys. Uh, let's see, I'm scrolling up here. Uh, Um, no, I saw one that I wanted to grab before, and now I can't. I'm sorry to whoever it was. All right, we'll just. Zero with the AK behind the gun. Yeah, we kept, well, the first place. No, the second place. Second place. First place was in New York. The second place was here. And yeah, I used to keep an AK-47 and a 12 gauge under the counter. Tanner, is YouTube something you were able to do full time, or were you retired when you started it? No, I definitely wasn't retired. The first year was rough. I was transitioning from having a shop to doing YouTube, and we tried a podcast for a period of time. I think like 6 months or so before we decided to go ahead and do YouTube. Try YouTube full time. So during that period of time, I went through a lot of savings, a lot, and then we got monetized after about a year, right? So this is our 8th year doing it. So we got monetized after about a year, and then we were able to actually pay the bills just off of YouTube by the second year, by the end of the second year or thereabouts. So from that point, yeah, we've been doing full time. If you if you if you if you if you if you put it if you score the right demographic, and our demographic is a little on the older side, so we have a lot of 55-plus-year-old people who watch this. So when you have an older, more affluent demographic, you get paid on a higher rate. So in other words, like if you do a car channel and most of your audience is, let's say 15 to like 25, you don't get paid a very high rate. But it goes by the age, the demographic. So because we have an older demographic, we get paid a very good rate on our channel. And so because of that, we're able to make a really good living off it. Except for last month. Markro Pitu. Well, thank you for the super chat. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Drag Pack Mark, I was there for the podcast. Oh man, that was we had fun with that. It's a shame it didn't go. Slide Rider, Tony was originally a magazine content creator, right? Yeah, I was doing magazines back in the 1980s when I was in my early to mid 20s, and then again I did it for 4 years full time in the 1980s, and then I got away from that, turned wrenches and did the Nitro thing, and then got back into media. Oh, in the middle 90s. So I took about 10 years off, 8 years off. Then I got back into it for a few years in the late 90s, and then again back to turning wrenches, because that's always my ground zero. Just go turn wrenches. So and now for the last 8 years, this is all I've done, which is weird for me because I always had, my whole life I always had like 2 gigs going, right? Two separate streams of income that didn't really interfere with each other. And this is since I'm doing YouTube, this is the only time in my life that I've actually had 1 income stream, which is a little unsettling, but it is what it is. Barrows, thank you. Oh, I didn't say that to try to stir up charity or sympathy. I didn't say it in that respect. I was just saying in general. It's like this last month, January, was holy shit. So, but yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. We're having a better month right now. Although February is always a bitch because it's only 28 days. Cass McEnty. I'm sorry, Cass, 64-year-old UTG and Vice Garage inspired me to build my first stock 350. Next up, 383 stroker. Congratulations. Welcome to the club. We have done our job. If we got you off your ass and actually inspired you to turn wrenches, I can't speak for him, but I'm sure he would feel the same way. That's why we do this stuff. Wheeler King, who are you calling older? I'm 55, feel 35. Bro, I'm 63 and I'm going on 14. Okay. It's like we're cut from the same cloth. Even though I'm half crippled, me too, fight dirt bike injuries. I've had a lot more than just dirt bike injuries. You know exactly what that's like. Yes, I do. Still refuse to be old. Oh, I'll die a teenager. There's no question about it. I'll die a teenager. Tanner, you know Brian Salter well. I don't know him well, but I actually was on the phone with him today. He's a solid guy. I like him a lot. He's smart. Dietrich, Tony, when did the tracks open by you? So a guy ended up leasing, let me roll a cigarette. A guy ended up leasing Buffalo Valley, so Buffalo Valley is not dead. From what I understood, they were going to have opening day on February 21st. But evidently that's just going to be like a car show swap meet get together type of thing. So there won't be any racing on the 21st. But I imagine it'll be within a week or two after that. So first week of March. I'm probably a month from the tracks being open here yet. Dean Stevenson is crippled from the eyebrows up. Some days I feel like that. Judge Me Not Le Mans. Uncle Tony, did you watch any of the Sick Week racing? I have not. Just because my head has been in another place. So I haven't really been paying very much attention to anything in the world like drag racing or anything. But there's a good chance tonight, after I'm done with this and I start flipping, I may watch a couple of videos just to catch up on it. The problem I have with watching stuff like 6 week coverage or anything like that is that it's just so spread out. Okay, I want a more concise wrap up. Okay, of what happened. I don't really care about who had to swap a differential in a gas station at 3 o'clock in the morning. Spare me that. Okay. Show me the fastest cars, the most interesting runs, the most interesting cars, right? I like condense the whole thing down to a good half hour of like high impact, and I'm there. I'll watch it. Yes, this is great, but it's just too much. It's like everything you see at Sick Week is an hour and 45 minutes. It's and I just don't have that attention span. I mean, maybe a younger person who's not quite as jaded as I am. Because you got to remember, right? How many tens of thousands of vehicles I've watched go down drag strips over the course of my life. So it's like you've seen one, really, you got to see them all, damn it. So it's like, I imagine a younger guy, like when I was younger, 20s, 30s, yeah, I'll sit and watch hour after that, hour after hour of that. But at my age, I'm just, no, just give me the condense down the highlights and shoot it to me, and I will be very interested in that. Raymond Cabal turned 70 yesterday. Happy birthday, bro. Happy birthday. Let's see. Really King is saying, you just said got off your ass. One of my other favorite YouTubers ends every video with, remember, sitting on your ass won't finish your project. That would be Puddin's Fab Shop. I've seen a couple of his videos. He seems like a really cool guy. Yeah, but it's true, and you know, yeah, we do this professionally. We do this for a living. This is how I make a living. Some people paint right, you know, walls and stuff like that. Some people deliver Alka-Seltzer. Some people, you know what I mean. And some of us sit and talk to freaking cameras. This is our job. We do it for money. But the motivation there, you know, aside from just getting a paycheck, is to inspire people, teach people, you know, raise them up, you know, here, learn something from me. I worked really hard for this knowledge. I don't want to die with it. Here, take this, you know, and use it. And the same thing with motivation. You know what I'm saying? It's like we want it's a big factor. It's like you want to motivate people. You want to, you know, promote the culture, extend the culture. You don't want this stuff to just end with us. And it's not going to, man. I see a lot of young guys really into this stuff. Sharp. The young guys today are so much sharper than we were back in the day. So the culture's in good hands. The culture is in good hands. Dean Stevenson says he learned everything he knows from the Flintstones. Betty ran the program. I'm telling you, it was Betty that ran the whole program. You know, you wouldn't see it. If you watch the episodes, you don't really see it. It's all behind the scenes. Betty pulled the strings. Betty was the puppet master. Prove me wrong. Kevin Smith is turning 65. Happy birthday, Kevin. This is like one of those like old TV shows, you know, like, you know, happy birthday, right? Everybody's gonna have a birthday special. Sleeper Red Eye. Hey Tony, can you do a video on deleting thermostatic hot air injection? I don't unscrew the rails, you know, unscrew the two injection rails, throw them away, get some pipe plugs and screw them into the holes. There. I don't have to make a video. That's everything you need to know right there. Um, Dean Stevenson. What about Looney Tunes? So, okay, that's one of those Mandela effects. Okay. This is one of those Mandela effects. You guys, I'm sure you know what a Mandela effect is, right? Is it Looney Tunes, Looneytoons, or Looney Tunes, Tunes? Because I remember it as Looney Tunes, Toons, you know, short for Looney Cartoons. But evidently, no, it's always been Looney Tunes, Tunes. But I do not ever remember any sort of we got it both ways. Tunes. Okay. Okay. What do we got here? Annoying dad. You got a question. 5-9 Cummins. I'm freshening up. I have soaked this top of the piston for weeks now with WD-40 and AFT. I use a small brass wheel and the carbon is still on it. Carbon, yeah, no, WD-40 and automatic transmission fluid is not going to break up the carbon. No, okay, don't be afraid of hurting that piston with a wire wheel. Use a proper, you know, wire wheel. Don't worry about the brass wheel. Use a proper wire wheel, and that'll knock the carbon right off. You could, so what I would generally do with something like that is take like a razor blade, right, or a cutter, a similar thing like that, a sharp scraper, right. Chuck the piston up. Make sure you're not crushing anything. Wrap it in a rag, a shop rag or something. Stick it in a vise, and then scrape the heaviest part of it off. Then take a wire wheel and just make a couple of passes over the top of it. Don't worry about if you put a couple of scratches from the wire wheel into the piston. It is not going to hurt it. Good luck with that. I hate cleaning carbon, man. Um, oh wow, we're at an hour 40 already. Wheelie King, I can blow up the YouTube with how to properly assemble and break in a two-stroke. I haven't lost a single one since Eric Gore taught me the way. Do it. Um, Nerds Hot Rod Club. I got a kick out of your article on high performance Mopar where you were hand lapping valves on a Hemi head while sitting on a toilet. Awesome 1980s. Yeah, we shot that. That was like 1985. I think that wasn't we didn't do that for Mopar. Actually, I did that for Muscle Car magazine. And then when we did Mopar, we carried it over to high performance Mopar. But yeah, that was 41 years ago. 41 years ago. Oh, you missed my comment leading to that into that. You hate cameras. I'm such an asshole. So we have a dog club. Okay, well, we don't have a dog club. We're part of a dog club. Okay, and we're in a scent work group. Both of my border collies love scent work. Okay, so we take them to these scent work classes. So during scent work, they film you, right? So you take the dog, and the dog is looking around the different objects trying to find the scent, and the teacher in the class takes your phone and films you doing it, right? So in this case, it's two people teaching a class. So it's a mother and daughter teaching the class, and both times I told them that, yeah, I'm really camera shy. Don't don't take my pic. I don't want to see the video. I'm really camera shy. So they think that I'm just like, oh yeah, he, he doesn't want to be on camera. They have no clue what I do. Um, Mike's out fishing. Tony, is too much carburetor a problem? It can be. When choosing a carburetor size, what is the rule of thumb? I did a video on this. Um, Assuming you're talking about a average, typical, normal, higher performance street driver, street strip type of thing, a very typical kind of engine using a very typical kind of way, double the cubic inches. Just double the cubic inches. Don't worry about any other formulas. If it's a 350-inch engine, find something that's really close to 700 CFM. You'll be right there in the ballpark. That's the easiest way. Either just double the cubic inches. Um, Danny Boyd is saying too big could work if you spend your life at wide open throttle, which most people do not. Well, what if you're too big as a vacuum secondary carburetor? What if you're too big as a square bore? Okay, so see what I'm saying? Sleeper at night. I know you just plug it, but are there any cons to deleting the thermostatic? Oh, are there any cons to it? No. The purpose of that air injection setup was okay. Under certain circumstances, you get real unburned fuel. Well, that was the purpose of the catalytic converter, right? But you get unburned fuel entering the exhaust. Okay, so to clean that up, to burn up that fuel, they would inject air into the intake manifold. That's that whole purpose of that. That's what it's there for. Any downside? Okay, if it's an air injection system used in conjunction with a catalytic converter, yes, you could potentially clog the cat. But I mean, I don't know what you're working with there. They had air injection systems long before they had catalytic converters. So again, so I don't know what you're working with there. If there is any potential downside, that would be it. If you've got a cat, it can damage the cat. No clogging the cat. Scoop is right. Do not clog the cat. Scoop is a cat. Okay. Rob, I have a 1973 440 that has 2 1/4-inch water passage holes between the 2 lower head bolts. Yes, I'm familiar. Must I have heads with corresponding holes, or can I use the heads that don't have those? Yeah, don't worry about it. You don't need to, don't concern yourself with those holes. If the heads you happen to have don't line up with those 2 small, I know the ones you're talking about. Yeah, don't worry about it. Sorry, fat guy, eat the cat or don't eat the cat. I know how it goes in Korea, but how about with you guys? I say do not eat the cat. I'm not crazy about them. You know, I'm really not. I'm not a cat person, right? But yeah, if you're going to eat a cat, make sure it's like really feral. You know, don't ever eat a domesticated anything. Is that even like if you got a pig that's been domesticated? You can't eat that. You can't eat that. Feral is different. Once it's the way it says, once something has entered our sphere of consciousness. Okay, so in other words, like now it relates to you. You don't even have a communication with it, right? It becomes domesticated, then it's off limits to eat. Does that make any sense? It's like it becomes humanized. Dean Stevenson, is nothing sacred? I don't know. I don't know. I would hazard to say that most of the things that actually are sacred, we have no clue about. Annoying dad. Can I use a piece of granite as a straight edge or as a sanding block? It's 1/10,000 straight on my feeler gauge. Yeah, it's done all the time. The preferred method, okay, is to don't put the media that you're going to use, like the sandpaper, on the granite and then run that over the head. Do it the other way. Have the granite on the ground with the media over that, and then run the head over that. And yeah, you'll get an even finish. I tell you what I use. Like if I just want to just say I check ahead. Actually, I just did it with the Jeep, and I probably should have included in a video, but I didn't. Okay. Head was a little warped, just a little warped. Okay, so I used a long, what do you call it? They use it for like smoothing cement, right? Whatever the hell they call that. It's wood, right? So I've got one of those up at the shop, and with that, I use double-sided tape. I use double-sided tape and emery cloth on the bottom of that, and I use that to plane the cylinder head. And you just go careful, make sure you're making completely even strokes. You're covering the whole surface, you know, and you'll see the high spots. When you see the high spots disappear, you know what I mean? Or you see scratch marks through the low spot, you can stop right there. De-strow annoying that I would bet a piece of flat tempered glass could work too. It has worked and it shatters. It just, yeah, no, don't. You can use like a piece of flat tempered glass. If let's say you got a water pump or something, you know, a relatively light part, and you just want to clean the surface and stuff. Then yeah, a piece of tempered glass is fine. But don't ever try to mill a head on a piece of tempered glass. You know, just don't do it. Moti, you mean don't use a board with a battery for weight? Oh, please, those kids. I wasn't going to stop them. I wasn't going to stop them. I thought, okay, well, maybe maybe they know what they're doing. Okay. I knew that they didn't know what they were doing, but they had come up with this method. I showed them the way I was doing it. Okay. And they says, well, I guess they said, well, we can do better than the old man. So they used a battery and they were moving it in a figure eight. Right. And I was like, okay, this is not my build. I'm here to, if you got questions, ask me. If I show you how to do something, you want to do it a different way, we'll go ahead and do it. So yeah, it was cute. It was cute. Uh, Jimmy Lewis, thank you for the super chat again. It's my experience that the difference between a parking brake and emergency brake comes down to how lazy the vehicle owner is. Um, uh, BC, if this person does use the head without the holes, what does the gasket situation look like if it's done properly? Which one? There are no specific gaskets for a big block Chrysler. It's a one size fits all. Some of the earlier heads had the steam holes, is what they are. Some of the earlier heads had them, and most of the later heads didn't have them. But there's no difference in the gaskets. Uh, but those two holes are inconsequential. I know the ones that he's talking about. I've never given them any consideration, and they've never given me any problems. Yes, Scoop. Figure eight. Yes. Tanner Watson, ever had any luck patching a radiator? I used to do it all the time. I haven't really had to lately. One of our first videos, and I believe it's still up. One of our first videos was fixing a radiator. It was I repaired a cracked tank by soldering pennies to it. I think that it was, like I said, one of our first videos. It should still be up. But yeah, I've done many radiators. My first shop in New York when I was 19 was behind a radiator shop, Ace Radiator, a guy named Gene Fortunato. So I hung out at the radiator shop often when I was slow and I didn't have any work or anything. I'd hang around his place and I would work on radiators with him. So yeah, I've done many of them. Tanner, you got a leak in the core of yours. Um, you need good flux. Okay. So here's what you need. You need a propane torch and you need good flux. Good flux is important. Okay. And a toothbrush. You need a toothbrush and you need good solder. Okay. So what you're going to do is um, you see the tube that's leaking, right? So what you're going to do is you go to the tank, right? So you're going to take a pair of needle nose pliers, and you're going to take your propane torch, and you're going to heat the tank of the radiator, where we're close to the tank of the radiator, in the core of the radiator, where that tube goes in, where it's soldered in place. So you're going to put your needle nose pliers on that tube, and put some heat from the propane torch, and pull, and it'll release. When it releases, just fold it over. Then go to the other side, the top or the bottom, whichever one you know is left, and do the same thing there. Okay. Once you're done with that, once you have the old tube, the bad tube or tubes cut, okay, now you got to fill those holes. So you're going to take you're going to take your toothbrush and your flux, okay, and you're going to heat it with the torch and clean with the toothbrush. I use toothbrushes. They don't last very long, but it's the quickest, easiest thing to do. You can use a brass brush. Best thing is use a brass brush. Um, clean, right, with the flux. Drench it with flux, right? Then take your solder and just melt the solder into the fluxed hole. Flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. That's it. That's all there is to it. You can never use too much flux. As Zero says, clean it as good as possible, then clean it again. Yes, then flux. Fingers crossed. Oh, you'll have like a 95%. Even an amateur is going to have a 95% success rate. Uh, I'm scrolling up here. Kevin Smith said, no, it does not work on aluminum radiators. Uh, Sleeper Red Eye. We were all wondering, does Tone smoke the devil's lettuce? No, I am so and I'm not militantly straight edge by any stretch of the imagination. I encourage you to do whatever it is that you want. But no, I don't smoke any drugs. I don't drink any alcohol. I'm too busy. I have too many things going on. I can't, there's no time for that. Your zeros, your local old school radio shop closed, bro. I don't think there are any of them left. You think about it. When was the last time like those radiators were common? But the thing is, it's a fairly easy skill to master on you know what I mean. It's not like this great mysterious thing. To do it on any sort of scale, yeah, it takes a lot. But if it's just your own radiators that you have to do, it's a pretty easy skill to master. Soldering tanks, right? That could be a little tricky. That could be a little tricky. Getting the solder to flow and yeah, but Tanner, so you heat the tank and pull the tube rather than cutting the tube and plugging. Yes. And the reason for that is that the tube is not a solid tube. The tube is a wrap. Okay. It's a seam. The tube has a seam, and you'll never get it to seal completely. It'll always leak from the seam. I mean, I guess you could cut it and then fill the entire seam. But no, the accepted method is just pull it out. Just pull it out. Ultimate Massive, any updates on your Buell Motorsports to build? No, the bike is together and running with the 1200, and it's fun just the way it is. I have not started on because I'm going to do the Buell top end and cams in that 1200, but I haven't done it yet. My initial goal was just to get it running, just to get it riding, and then I have a couple of other things I'm going to get done first, and then I'll swap over all those parts. I'm just scrolling back. Oh, wow. We're over 2 hours. All right. I'm going to take like 1 or 2 more, and I'm going to call it a night. Tonight flew. Let's see. Right here is a plastic. Yeah, plastic and aluminum. So yeah. All right. That's it, guys. I am going to call it a night. So our fantastic mods, Fubar just put a link to our merch. So yes, if you want to support UTG, our hats and our shirts and stickers and stuff are there in the store. Thank you for that, Fubar, and thank you for being the amazing mod that you are. Zero, thank you. Mexican Spec, thank you. Best mods in all of YouTube. This is the smoothest live stream. Excuse me, smoothest live stream in the world. Right? And it's thanks to those guys. Everybody contributed with Super Chat. Thank you so much. It's always appreciated. It's never expected, but always appreciated. And everybody contributed with your presence and your conversation. Thank you equally. You guys are awesome. And that's it. I'm going to pull the plug, and I can't get the bathroom. I'll see you guys later. Good night, all.